Well, I can say that this worked out perfectly. This is the 3D DIY background. We've laid the foam down. We've made our custom little caves. Now, if you are watching this video right now and you haven't watched part 1, stop watching this video and go watch part 1, which I will put a link up above, probably somewhere over in this direction. And watch that video so that you'll know where we are, and then you can come back and finish watching this video. This will be part 2. So the foam is dry. It's been about a little bit over 24 hours, maybe about 28 to 30 hours or so. And I did check it. Everything is dry. And check this out. Balance there. That is the back side of the foam. So here we can see what it looks like on the back. It's dry everywhere. There aren't any soft or wet spots. I did double check. But when I said earlier in the first video that you had to use wax paper and spray it with the cooking grease, here you can see why. None of it stuck to the background. It completely released. Now let me show you what happens if you don't do that. And this has happened to me in the past. If you just spray right over the cardboard, it will stick. And oftentimes you'll get pieces of cardboard that will rip up with the foam and it will not release. And then you're spending like an hour peeling bits of cardboard off of the background, which you don't want to do. So now what we have to do is we have to cut the foam out of the wood frame. And then we're going to start the fitting process. So as I've said, we're going to cut the background out of the wood. You can unscrew the wood, and I've done that before, but I want to reuse this wood frame because it's going to make the cement process a whole lot easier and a lot less messy if we keep it the way it is. So I'm going to cut out the background, and we did spray the release on there, so hopefully it comes out pretty easily. I could go ahead and unscrew it and then screw it back together, but this will just be a little bit easier for me. And basically all you need is a decent knife or a trowel or anything that you can use to wedge between the foam and the wood. I'm going to use a large kind of Bowie knife just because I have it in my toolbox. And we're going to cut through this side. Okay, well there you can see that it cut out. It took me a little bit of time, but not too bad. And for the most part, the cooking grease did its job, the cooking spray, and the foam released directly off of the wood. And you can still see where it's kind of greasy there, and then some other areas where it got stuck, but still pretty easy to come off. So now what we're gonna do is get out the other tank and fit it and start to make a little bit of trimming adjustments. Okay, so now we have the 40 breeder out. This is a 3-foot tank, and we have the 3D background. Now, if you did watch part 1, which I hope you did, you know that this background was made to be larger than the tank. It's gonna sit up above the tank. And I did measure it to fit directly inside. Now, even though we did measure it, we're gonna have to do a little bit of trimming to just make sure that it fits perfectly. Also, because this 40 breeder has a lip, I'm gonna have to notch the back of this aquarium so that it fits in nice and snug. You also might remember that we made some caves and the cups are still in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove those cups and start the trimming and fitting process to have this fit into this 40 breeder. Well, now you can see what the background looks like. You can see the caves back there. It's kind of hard to see by this angle, but there are 3 caves in there. They are all under the water surface, and then you can see how high this background goes above the water. Now, the reason why I'm doing something different is I want to try and do some air plants up in this area. So what I'm going to do, you can see where I made the foam kind of large here and made these ledges. So I'm going to kind of scoop this area out with a knife and make little pockets where I can put some air plants in here so that that will be part of the decor. I'm also going to do a little bit of trimming just around where I have some high spots where I kind of want it to be a little bit lower, like right here This spot I'm going to trim down, and anywhere where I see kind of anything that I don't like the look of, I'm just going to take a knife and carve it, and then all of it's going to get covered with concrete anyway. And then on the back, let me go around the back here. On the back, you can see that I made some marks. That's the line where I'm going to kind of cut a little groove for this lip. But then there are also some high spots back here. So you can see there's a high spot there and there and there and there. So I'm going to go through and shave that off with a knife. Let me get this out of here just so that it is a lot more flush. And really the more excess foam you can carve out of this thing, the better, because these things are extremely buoyant. Obviously, this is a foam background, and we put it in the water, it's going to float. So we don't want that to happen. So we're going to carve out as much excess foam as possible so that we reduce the amount of buoyancy. And then, of course, later on, we're going to coat this entire thing in concrete, which is going to reduce the amount of buoyancy quite a bit. Now, this would also be the part where you'd want to add any suction cups or any type of restraint devices. So in the past, I've attached suction cups to these things, and you can there's a few different ways depending on what kind of suction cup and different types of adhesives. You can actually just use this foam and spray some foam and stick the suction cup right into the foam, obviously when it's wet. So like if I wanted to put some suction cups on this, I could cut some holes here and spray a little bit of foam in there, stick the suction cup in there, and then go through and trim it later when it's dry. And I would probably do about 6 or so heavy-duty suction cups in addition to the concrete to keep this thing settled down. But because this is a raised system, I'm not going to have that issue, because basically the top of the stand is like right here, so it has nowhere to go. And then I will also use some rocks and things on the bottom to just hold it up against the glass. So I'm not going to do any suction cups. I have done it in the past. I did it with a Mudskipper Island, and this would be the time when I would do that. The other thing, and when we talked about this on the previous video, we put in some rocks. Now here you can see there's a rock down below. This is a real rock. I'm going to carve out around here as well so that more of that rock is exposed. And also, the more rocks you would add to the base of this, if I added like 4 or 5 rocks, that's also going to help keep this thing down. So I've done that in the past as well, where I've put some larger rocks into the background to just keep that weight down below. But with this design, I'm not going to have that issue. So remember that this is a very buoyant type of background, so suction cups will be important. Obviously, the concrete will help, and then adding rocks is something that you can do as well. You could also silicone this in place, and that might be something that we do as well, just because this is a dry tank, and that would be a good time to do it. So we'll probably end up throwing a bead of silicone in this just to kind of help it stay put. Well, that was a lot of work, but we're pretty much where we want to be right now. So if you can look closely here, you can see how I've carved out quite a bit of this background. Let me kind of hold it up a little bit just so you can kind of see from the side. You can kind of get a little bit better idea there. You can see how much I carved out compared to how it was before. There's all the foam on the ground that I carved out of this background. So I was able to shape it the way I want to shape it. And that's going to allow me to have full customization. So again, if you want to have like a more rocky look, you can embed rocks in there, you can carve rocks in there. I kind of like the flush rock look. And this will look a little bit better once we add the concrete here. You can also see that I made these little planters. So this is where we're going to have the air plants above the water. So the water surface is going to come up to right about here. And then up above, we'll have those air plants. And this will all be kind of gray in color. And then the other thing that's good about carving, which I do recommend, especially if you're worried about buoyancy, is you can see all these little air pockets here. This is where the air pocket was formed from the foam. Since we're going to be coating this with concrete, the cement is going to fill all of those holes. So it's going to additionally kind of add some more weight to this background. And then some of these kind of deeper areas here that I've carved out, we will also fill with concrete. So we're going to add quite a bit of weight to this to help with the buoyancy issue. And then I did decide that I am going to silicone this in place once we're all done. So that is it for this step. The next thing is just to kind of spray this off with some air, or you can use water or whatever. Just make sure that it's completely dry before you start the next process, because we just want to make sure that all of those little bits of foam are knocked off, and that only happens when it's dry. And then we're going to put it back in the frame, and we're going to put it back on our cardboard and wax background, although at this point the wax paper is not necessary anymore, but I'll just go ahead and leave it on there. Then we'll mix the concrete and start applying it to this background. So that's it for this part of the video, or this part of the series. I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is the first time I've done like a DIY how-to step-by-step, and I'm trying to do everything and make sure that I kind of document and show you how to do everything. So that's it for today. The next time that we meet, we will be doing the concrete work. So I will have the background back in the form. I will have everything ready to go, and we will do the background in concrete. And that will be a lengthy video because we're going to have to go through, and it's going to be several days of shooting just for like a 10-minute video, because I've got to go through and do multiple layers and show you how to cure the concrete, etc. So that will be the next step. But overall, I think I'm liking this background a lot. I think it looks good. It's exactly how I envisioned it. And as I've been kind of going through the video and talking to you guys, I have kind of made some decisions that I think are going to help out, like doing the silicone as an example, instead of like doing any suction cups or anything like that. So that's where we are. I've even thought about what fish I'm going to put in there. I'm not going to share that just yet, but I do know what's going to go in there, and I think you guys are going to like it. And otherwise, that's all I had for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.